A badge of honor. A badge of honor. Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But that's not how it feels today, and the stress of the job is taking its toll, taking lives through suicide and post-traumatic stress injury. A Badge of Honor podcast features the cast of the same name, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno. Sam, John, and the team offer the first responders workshops through their critical incident stress management teams and mental health liaisons to offer state-certified T-COLE credit programs that save lives. It's time to smash through the stigma. It's time to heal from your injury, and it's time to back our blue. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast. Here are your hosts, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast powered by OBBM. It is great to be with you today. And as you can see, it's a solo show. I want to give a huge shout out to my business partner, co-creator, co-founder, John Salerno. He is being very selfish for a good reason. He is on a cruise with his wonderful wife, Tara, and his brothers and sisters from the Third Watch Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club. So shout out to them if they're watching the Caribbean. I hope you're not watching. I hope you're taking the time. Psych. I hope you're watching, because today we're going to learn. We have just been going full steam with a whole bunch of events, all geared towards wellness for our first responders. We had kayak fishing. We had the International Association of Chiefs of Police conference here in Dallas recently, and we are going into a jam-packed November. Why? Because it's all about you all watching, all about the first responders out there. And tonight is no difference, because when we're talking about what it means to be well, we're talking about the whole body. John and I have mentioned before, we both have our diagnosis of post-traumatic stress. This is connected to this, which is connected to this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are not pieces of, we are whole people. And that is how we need to approach our wellness, because it is fantastic to get help like EMDR, for post-traumatic stress once you have the diagnosis. It is a whole nother level to stay plugged in and be very serious about treating everything else that comes with supporting your brain health. And tonight's guests on the podcast, they are dedicated to having our first responders be well. So I want everybody to just take a deep breath, sit back, relax. Hey, if you're listening on your favorite podcast, listen very closely, because we are going to get a lot of pieces of learning that we can take away and we can do as tactics, as strategies, as tools, as we build our wellness toolbox. So I want to welcome Danielle and Simon. They're an incredible team from First in Wellness. Hey guys, welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast.
Thanks for having us on, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
You bet. And, Simon, you're joining us all the way from Australia. Thank you for getting up and starting your day. He says he survived Halloween because it's already tomorrow in Australia. And, I want to start off just by giving everybody who's watching and listening an overall picture of First in Wellness. Danielle, we'll start with you. Just a little bit about you, your background, and what led you to create First in Wellness.
Yeah, so I started out doing clinical nutrition in a hospital and was exposed to a bit of emergency care in there. And then I went on, I had my own health crisis, 7-8 years into my career, where I was bit by some ticks, got very sick, and lost my own health. And that led me down a path to what's called functional medicine, which is root cause medicine. So think about, you go to the doctor, you have heartburn, and typically you're going to be given a medication to suppress stomach acid. In functional medicine, we may use something to help with the symptoms. Most likely we will, but we're also going to look at what's causing that heartburn. Is it psychological stress? Is it something you're eating? Is it a physiological thing? So I did that for several years. And during that journey with one of the clinics I was working at, we started doing some wellness programs for a fire department. And immediately upon talking with these firefighters, hearing their stories, and then starting to do some of my own research for the program for cancer prevention, cardiac risk, and learning more and more, I knew immediately this is what I needed to do. And through conversations, just learning about the high stress of the job, the things that you're exposed to that are going to bother any human being that is exposed to these things, the sleep deprivation, the trying to balance a family, a social life, a job, all these things, and all this to take care of me and to take care of our communities. I wondered who's taking care of them. And so I immediately knew that this is what I wanted to do, quit my job and started First in Wellness. And one of the things that keeps me going is those conversations. But I also have a really good friend whose dad was a firefighter, and he retired and was really excited about his retirement. And not even a year into his retirement, he died of cardiac arrest right in front of my friend. And just being at that funeral and being with my friend and her family after that, I think about that almost every day. And I think about all the sacrifices that he made on the job, all the sacrifices he made in his life to protect our communities, and how excited he was about his retirement. And then he died at such a young age. And maybe there's some genetic factors there, but definitely the stress of the job, the exposure, the sleep deprivation, all that goes into those risks of cardiac events, cancers, and just an earlier death. And so I wanted to give back to that community. And so I try to remember that every day, and all the conversations that I have with people, and what a big part of being a first responder it is in their lives. It's their many times, and most times I talk to people, it's their calling. There's nothing else they would be doing. It's just what they were meant to do. I want to be there to support them. So that's why we started First in Wellness.
Well, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to retirement. First of all, John and I, we're both first responders to 9/11. And so we were exposed to everything there, lost a lot of friends to cancer. Cancer is the thing that keeps cropping up for everybody that was there. But we're talking the way you guys work, and I was so impressed with your website. It is so robust. I'm gonna put up the website right now. For those of you who are listening and not watching, it is firstinwellness.com, and first is spelled out. So firstinwellness.com, very robust website, tons of information, important information for us to understand exactly what's going on. When it comes to cancer, you talk about stress, you got to talk about food, right? Sugar, that kind of feeds it all as well. And we're talking about today, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Danielle and Simon from First in Wellness, and we are talking about how to turn your stress into strength. I think that's something that first responders is like, how the bleepity bleep am I turning something that, frankly, when we do our workshops, they say, the stress is so bad, I feel like I'm underwater.
Yeah.
How am I turning this into a strength? And I think you do a beautiful job in showing the support of exactly how you can do that. Simon, please take a moment, introduce yourself, and explain how you're a piece of this, because like I said, it is so important.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sam. So I'm out here on the east coast of Australia, as you said, about an hour north of Sydney, for those who might know the place. I'm a psychologist professionally, and I have been for nearly 25 years out here. And my background, when I was very first a psychologist, I did a lot of did a lot of work with employee assistance programs, and at that time that involved first responders out here, paramedics, firefighters, police officers, and over time that turned into doing things like well-being checks with specific groups within first responders. So, for example, there was a time when I was doing 3 monthly wellbeing checks with members of the crash investigation unit within the police. You know, the task force that goes out to investigate serious and fatal motor vehicle accidents, and you can imagine what they're exposed to day in, day out. But over time, that also led to work with military veterans as well, including Gulf War, Iraq, Australian military veterans, of course, Gulf War, Iraq, all the way back to the Vietnam War. And then more recently than that, a bunch of work in the area of workers' compensation with first responders. So those who had suffered a psychological injury, typically PTSD, but not always, and supporting them to really restore themselves to good health. Some of them were able to go back to the work that they loved doing and were committed to doing, which was absolutely fabulous. And others reached a point where they realised that I don't think I can do this anymore. And it felt like a choice to them at that point. It felt like either I go back to do this work or I keep my health. And I think, Sam, I think that's really, it's sad when people are faced with a choice like that over something that they really love doing versus something that's absolutely essential to them. However, being able to support people through that process was really valuable. I had a personal experience myself several years ago. My sister's partner at the time was a highway patrol officer here, kind of the equivalent of a state trooper, I guess, and he was killed on duty in a pursuit, and I watched the impact that had on his colleagues in his workplace. And the long-lasting impact. In fact, I was really privileged just earlier this year, Sam, to be able to go to a memorial service. It was the 20th anniversary of his passing earlier this year, and the local police district held a memorial service for him. So I was invited to that, and it was a privilege to see some of those people there. One of the wonderful things that came out of that was that I ended up in conversation with the local commander of this police district, who has only been in that particular role a couple of years, and I got chatting to him, and that then turned into an opportunity to do a session on health, well-being, purpose, self-care, and so on for his trainee sergeants, those who were about to step into a sergeant role. So great opportunity to kind of speak into that situation and support those people as they take on that additional responsibility of leadership, to be able to be cognizant of health and well-being and how to manage that in themselves and support their crews as well. So that was my professional background. Danielle and I met just coming up on 3 years ago, actually, in, of all places, Naples, Florida. We were doing some advanced training together. Met each other at this event and got talking and just made a really lovely connection. Had this shared interest and shared passion around supporting the health and well-being of first responders. So that's how I ended up being part of all of this.
Well, that is fantastic. Hey, you guys are listening to Danielle and Simon from First in Wellness. We got to take a quick break and we will be right back.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Oh man, that was pretty rough. You said it. You know what I could go for right now? Oh yeah, a wellness program. Said no one. Ever. But we're about to change that. We're First in Wellness, and our programs for first responders are just what you could go for. You've probably heard about wellness, and even sat through a few programs. Instead of telling you what not to do, First in Wellness supports what's important to you. You'll work with our world-class coaches to set and reach your own goals. They're by your side as you improve your nutrition. Practice the techniques of a stress ninja. Explore the mysteries of restorative sleep. And train your whole body for the job you do, not the gun show at the gym. So next time you're feeling like a professional punching bag, ask for a shot of First in Wellness. All characters are professional performers. Any resemblance to actual first responders or First in Wellness staff is purely coincidental. No cast or crew were exposed to the coronavirus during filming.
Okay, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by OBBM Media Network. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Welcome back, Danielle and Simon. I'm going to encourage everybody. Hey, if you are listening to this on your favorite podcast app, you tomorrow jump on over and catch this show, the replay, because you missed one of the most creative, hilarious, because we have to make intros to what you do, because we have to make fun of it, right? We have all been in those conferences where it is like, it is exactly what don't do this, you can't do that. And yes, you fall asleep. And we've realized, those of us that are in the trenches, like you all that have personally experienced tragedy, and what first responders go through, we gotta keep it light. We gotta keep it engaging. So thank you so much for that. Let's talk about your programming. Okay. John and I talk about all the time. It is not coincidence how we met. I don't believe it's coincidence how you met, because what you guys do mesh so well together. And again, it takes somebody that's kind of in the trenches and has experienced what first responders go through on a daily basis. Simon, through your practice and through loss. Danielle, you the same, you personally, and then the loss your friend suffered. What do your programs target? Let's start with that.
We target kind of the main lifestyle issues that are going to help to support your wellness, both your physical and psychological wellness. So we have a couple different programs, but the mainstays of the program are, we talk about nutrition to support your psychological and physical health, how to get not more sleep, because we know as a first responder, that's almost nearly impossible. So how to improve your sleep quality. So training you can do during the day, but also leading up to your bedtime and when you get into bed. Also things to improve your stress response. So to have a healthier stress response, so to work on that and strengthen that adaptation to stress, and to help your body get back into that homeostasis, that more relaxed state after a critical incident, after a really stressful situation. And then the other thing we talk about is fitness. And so we do have a fitness program. We have an online program that individuals can go through. And we also have a program that's built into our 90-day program. And then kind of the last layer on top of that, which we offer is coaching. And that's one-on-one coaching, because we really believe that information is fantastic. It's wonderful. We've all been to workshops. We've all been to conferences. We've all listened to podcasts or read books or whatever. And the information is fantastic. But then when you walk away from that, maybe a couple of days go by, a week, a couple months, a year, maybe you don't know how to utilize that information. You don't know how to implement it into your life. And that's where the coaching comes in. And then the last thing is, we know that your jobs are incredibly high stress. You deal with a lot of stuff. And so our programs are meant to give you easy, quick, but very effective solutions to both to all your nutrition, your sleep, your building a better and healthier stress response, as well as fitness. And so what we don't want to do is add more stress, pile more onto your plate. So our programs are meant to be simple and also to find things that are important to you. So instead of telling you have to eat this, maybe nutrition isn't something you even want to talk about or even think about. Maybe you're more concerned with sleep or carving out more time to go to your son's baseball game. So we try to find things that are going to be meaningful to you as a person and as a first responder to build your strength so that you can continue to do the job that you love, but also continue to do it well.
That's excellent, because I heard easy, quick, simple stuff that you want to target. That's key, because with a day that is jam-packed going from call to call, we like to say, at least in the fire department, John will attest to this, there is a little bit more downtime than say, if you're working a busy beat in New York City. Nutrition, very important. I know, because I've been on your website. We're not talking about, turning your diet into carrot sticks and celery. There's a place for that, and there's a place for salad. But, Simon, you've seen this. If you're trying to, if you have a first responder in active treatment and you're finding out, well, it's all about sugar and caffeine that just continues to drive them, how does that impact, you're working with them on the psychology standpoint?
It's a great question, Sam, because of course, I mean, one of the things that we don't often or don't always think about with all of these lifestyle factors that Danielle's been talking about is the systemic nature of them, the interconnectedness of them. We kind of tend to silo these things. We talk about diet, we talk about exercise, we talk about sleep and managing your stress and so on. They're really all just different sides of the same ball. They're all connected with each other, and so when if your diet is donuts and coffee, that has an impact on the amount of underlying energy you've got to give to movement, for example, or movement outside of what you do in your daily job. That has an impact on even the way that you think about things. It certainly has an impact on your capacity to draw upon resources to manage stress and so on. And these things become cyclical and systemic. So that if I'm working with someone and seeing all of these things, one of the things that I think is absolutely vital in the area of behaviour change for all practitioners, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, dietitians, whatever, it's absolutely vital to avoid falling into the cycle of telling people what to do, simply delivering an instruction about this is what you need to do. And this is a challenge, Sam, because all of us who've trained professionally in this way have been trained into this mindset that we have this amazing expert knowledge, which we do. But we've also, there's been no sort of deeper analysis of that. And so what we tend to do is bring that expert knowledge and then think that simply pushing that expert knowledge at someone is the way to go about this. And it's, quite frankly, it's not. The best way to support someone is to take the time to understand what matters to that other person, to understand what their needs are, what their motivations are, what their desires are, what they see their life looking like 5 years or 10 years or 20 years from now, to understand the things that fire them up, the things that blow their hair back, the things that they really want to be able to do but don't perhaps feel like they can do at the moment. Once we've got those things on the table, then we can start inviting that person to make some links between what you're doing now, what you're experiencing. What else could you do that might be different here? And of course, we use that expert knowledge to guide people and to perhaps put some additional information into the mix. But we avoid that cycle of simply telling people what to do. And I've seen this time and time again as a psychologist, and I understand from the practitioner perspective how easy this can be. As practitioners, we all work to codes of ethics, of good practice, and supporting people and preventing suffering and so on. We get anxious when we feel like the things that we're doing aren't making a difference. What are we inclined to do then? We're inclined to do more of the same. We're inclined to feel like maybe I haven't explained it clearly enough. So I'm just going to come in extra hard now and give you this information even more clearly and more directly. And of course, all that does is lead to the other person responding by feeling overwhelmed. They back off a little bit, feel like, maybe this isn't for me, or this guy doesn't understand me, or something like that. And this cycle just kicks off so easily like that, where we get into this really unhelpful routine.
Well, that's why I love your intro with the action figures. It's great. Hey, we got to take a quick break. You guys are listening to Simon and Danielle from First in Wellness. We will be right back.
What is the role of American government anyway? Is the role of government to decide where I can go and where I can't? Is the role of government to work tirelessly to destroy vital infrastructure that keeps goods and services from my customers? Is the role of government to choose who can drive, fly, or ride according to mandated stipulations that threaten my body, health, mind, and conscience? Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Your voice, your feet, your vote, not just at the ballot box, but training to be a poll watcher, precinct chair, judge, or early ballot counter, so you are doing all you can to protect the fairly counted American vote. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America, because my voice
and my voice,
together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
All right, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. We are having a super in-depth conversation with Simon and Danielle from First in Wellness. Quickly, Simon, I wanted to go back to something that you said in the intro. Because you're in Australia, things might operate a little bit differently. Do the first responders in Australia, do they get help like through the state? Are there laws that allow a first responder to come to you that actually protects them from any kind of retribution or provides for their care?
Absolutely, Sam. So, and this is true at a number of levels. So, police, firefighters, and paramedics all have, for example, EAP programs, employee assistance programs. We have within our state health legislation. We of course have a workers' compensation system, which is, in many ways, I guess, similar to that in the US. People report an injury, they're able to receive treatment for that injury. They're able to get support to recover from that injury. There are numerous systems that are not necessarily even directly connected to first responder organisations. So things like out here we have an organisation called Beyond Blue, which is a mental health support organisation. Anyone can access that. So all of those supports are there. But I think there's something that's really important to call out here, and I know the same thing happens in the US, and that is even though the supports are there, there's still a stigma associated with putting your hand up and saying, I need some help. And that's the thing that we've got to challenge. That's the thing that we've got to normalize. The idea that we might need help with something is just unremarkable. I mean, it really is. You know, if your car starts making a funny noise and you put your hand up and you say, I need a mechanic, does anyone look at you and go, oh, yeah, you're a bit weak, aren't you? If you're out in the ocean and there's a huge current and you're struggling and you put your hand up for a lifeguard, do people just stand on the beach and go, oh, look at you, you weakling? Of course they don't. You know, they rush out to offer support and help. Almost every other area of our daily lives, we're prepared to just kind of say, well, you know, putting your hand up for help is not really that surprising. But when it comes to this, for whatever reason, we go, oh, gee, you know, maybe you're not up to it, which is a real tragedy. And that's the thing that we really need to target.
Yeah, it is the same here in the U.S. Some states have passed legislation, but you know, as most people, Danielle, I'm sure you've talked to enough first responders. It's like, great, okay, so the state passed a law. There's no teeth behind it, right? So that's why featuring, you know, when I came across your website, having you on, Danielle, and featuring what you do, we're huge proponents in, yeah, we got to smash the stigma. Let's be a part of that movement. Let's get help first. And so if they can land on your website, which I'm going to put up right now again, for those of you listening, it is firstinwellness.com, where first responders can land on your website and be like, okay, these guys are coming for you know, brain health in a different way. It's overall brain, body, everything health, which is so key. I love that you mentioned functional medicine. I am a huge fan of that. Have received EMDR, which saved my life, but also went the other way a couple of years later to discover, you know, what's actually going on in my body. Why am I feeling this way? I had adrenal fatigue, didn't even know it, had to change my entire fitness routine. So if you're a first responder and you're listening to this, and this is the first time you're hearing something called adrenal fatigue, you need to take a time out, because it affects us more often than the regular folks out there, because it's easy for us to reach constantly for those energy drinks, for the sugar, things that keep us going in a way that may feel good, but what it's doing inside of us is not so good. Throw on, I'm going to run, 5 miles a day or whatever to combat all the sugar and the extra lbs that might come on as we go through our career. What we're actually doing is we're breaking our body down. We are creating a very dangerous situation where our foundation is crumbling. And I think, a lot of programs are remiss if they do not talk about the seriousness of adrenal fatigue. Danielle, can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you say that, because I just recently started implementing more low heart rate training. And part of the reason I did that was to kind of rebalance my body. I am a sympathetic nervous system, cortisol, adrenaline junkie. And it was not doing me any favors. I always call myself a recovering exercise addict. And and it's true. And I got Lyme disease back when I was 32. I'm 47 now. And it's taken a long time to crawl out of that hole. And still, and when I was so sick and only able to sleep 3 or 4 hours a night for years, I was still going to the gym for hours a day, and I was just digging my own grave. And so I can relate to what you're saying. And so, Yeah. So adrenal fatigue, a real thing. It's basically for a while, you'll start kind of just running on high cortisol levels. You'll kind of have that tired and wired feeling. And then eventually you'll start to slide down, and then your body will stop producing enough cortisol, and you'll just it'll be hard to get out of bed. I mean, you're just exhausted. And so that takes some time, and there are different ways to recover. But one of those ways to recover is exactly what you said, Sam, with your nutrition, with trying to improve your sleep quality, with oftentimes it's changing our exercise program. You know, I see it a lot with women, especially middle-aged women. They are gaining weight, and so they start eating less and less, and they start exercising more and more, and they gain more and more weight. And basically they are just totally just undoing a nice healthy metabolism. They start just becoming sugar burners, and their body doesn't burn fat as well, and they are driving up their stress hormones. They're not sleeping as well. They get pretty cranky, and they start craving a lot of sugar. And I don't care how much willpower you have, sugar is one of the most addictive substances on earth. And so if you are sleep deprived and overtired, then you're going to crave sugar. And I don't know how much willpower it would take to not eat sugar, but I haven't met anyone that has that much willpower. It's a pretty difficult thing. So the good news is there's definitely recovery, and our bodies are these amazing things that if we give them the right input, if we listen, we can recover, whether it's a physical injury, a psychological injury, and many times it's both, right? They're intertwined. And
Right.
That's part of the reason we've designed our program we have. We want to get on the front end of this. We can get on the back end after someone's gone through the appropriate care to help them to sustain their recovery. But we really want to get on the front end to increase someone's resilience. And by that, I mean so that they have a healthy stress response, so that they're able to sleep deeply and get that recovery they need, so that they're fueling their bodies and keeping inflammation at bay. And so their cells can actually function properly because they're getting the nutrients that they need. And so that they're moving. If you're not moving, and even going to the gym for 30 minutes a day, if you're sitting the rest of the day, then that's really dangerous for your body. So if you don't have time to go to the gym during the day, and one thing I would like, and I don't need to do it now, but I would love to leave just a couple, I like to call them clinical pearls, so that people that are listening to this, they have like 1 to 5 things they can think about doing, or they can experiment with nutrition and sleep and training for a healthier stress response.
Absolutely. And we are going to come back with those pearls. Absolutely. You guys are listening to Danielle and Simon from First in Wellness on a Badge of Honor podcast. Got to take a quick break. We will be right back.
Every business needs a dependable junk hauling service to keep their property clutter-free. Call 630-470-8307. Junk Luggers offers a wide range of eco-friendly residential and commercial junk removal services to help your business run smoothly and efficiently. Book your no-obligation estimate with Junk Luggers today. Banks and credit unions have unique junk, and Junk Luggers knows the business. Professional organizers, senior living communities, we're helping everyone clean up and start new. If you're redecorating, remodeling, or getting ready for new tenants, Junk Luggers will donate, recycle, and do our best to keep it out of the landfill. Call 630-470-8307. That's 630-470-8307 today.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. And we are powered by the Offbeat Business Media Network. We're talking to Danielle and Simon from First in Wellness. Danielle, you said you were going to give us some pearls. Dive into those pearls, because the takeaways are important.
Right. So I'll start with nutrition, since I'm a dietitian and I love food. So I'll give you 5 easy steps to eating healthier. So the first thing is, if you can reduce those added sugars. And so if you look on a food label, it'll list your total sugars per serving in that particular food. And then underneath that, it'll have added sugars. So if you can just, what I usually tell people to do is maybe for a couple days or a week or so, just kind of jot down how many added sugars you're eating in a day if you're eating packaged foods. If you're eating real food, don't jot it down because that's not going to be added sugar, right? They're integrated into the food. So even fruit, that's packaged with all these nice minerals and vitamins and fiber. But any packaged food that has added sugar on the label, just write it down for like a week and just see how much you're eating. And then maybe try to just pick a number that you want to reduce that by and start just reducing added sugars. Another thing you can do is just start crowding your plate out with healthier options. So a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to tell me what I can and can't eat. No, I want you to look at what you're eating. And maybe you're going and eating fast food for every lunch and dinner. You're eating fast food. So maybe in there
that's a scary thought, by the way.
This is scary. I'm almost crying. But so maybe you just start adding maybe a little bit of vegetable to your plate. Maybe that crowds out a few of the French fries. So instead of thinking about what you can't eat, start thinking about what you can add to your plate that's going to add some health to your body. Another thing is, and this kind of goes with that, is start adding color to your plate. So think about all the colors of fruits and vegetables. Just start putting color on your plate. And if you want to get really crazy, you can start trying to make the rainbow on your plate at every meal. That's like 10 stars there. Next thing is just to ditch the unhealthy fats. So I think about what are called industrial seed oils. So things like canola oil and soy oil, vegetable oil, corn oil, so that your healthier oils are going to be things like olive oil, macadamia nut oil, even butter, even lard is going to be healthier than all those other things. We don't need to get into the weeds about different kinds of fat and cardiovascular risk, but if you're eating more of the real fats, then that's going to be healthier. And avoiding that kind of the scariest one is what's called trans fats. And they only have to list that on the food label if it has 0.5 grams or more per serving. So if it has 0.499 grams, then they can put 0. So you kind of have to be a bit of a detective and go in the ingredients and look for things like partially hydrogenated oils. Shortening is another word for trans fat. And the recommended amount, because they're so bad for you, they cause so much inflammation. There is a link to Alzheimer's disease, cancer, heart disease, is 0. That's the recommended amount. So if you're eating 0.499 and you're doing that multiple times a day, you're eating a lot of trans fats. And then the last thing for nutrition is just your meal timing. So if you can eat your last meal, snack, food, at least 3 hours before you go to bed, that's a massive step, because most of the time people, when they snack, it's going to be in the evening.
Right.
And then a lot of people will eat a big meal and then go right to bed. And so if we can eat our last bit of food at least 3 hours before we go to bed, that's another really powerful thing you can do nutrition wise.
That's great. That's great. And again, all of the nutrition goes to support not only the healthy lifestyle, but Simon, it makes your job easier because, I remember coming into my practitioner's office and being, adrenal flatline. I mean, just an absolute mess, not sleeping, not eating well, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, coming to find out, which was a sense of relief. It was post-traumatic stress. I finally put a name with why I was operating the way I was. But it really, to understand, and again, folks, visit their website, firstandwellness.com, because you'll really understand how all of this works together. And the programs are put together the way they're put together because Danielle and Simon and the rest of Danielle's staff, who we're going to meet next week, If you didn't know, hey, two-parter, woohoo! So lots of nuggets and pearls. It's done that way for a reason. They're building blocks. It's not throwing something at you and seeing what sticks, because those programs end up not sticking in the end, because it's not something that people will end up doing, or it's so voluminous and complicated. You're flipping through a book and then it's like, we're first responders, like, forget this book, we got to go. And so these nuggets, it's so easy. We complicate it, right? I mean, how easy is it to keep a diet diary? Just ask any personal trainer. They're probably, tearing their hair out right now if they're listening, because the diet diary is key. If you come to somebody who's like, hey, I got to take off some LBs. Well, what are you eating? I don't know, right? So we are talking diet. We are talking nutrition. We are talking psychological health. We are talking how to get yourself on the path, on the right track with Danielle and Simon from First in Wellness. We got to take another quick break. We will be right back.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical Bill of Rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
Hey there. Hey there. I'm a firefighter. I have to deal with some pretty rough stuff, like this. And this. And even this. Being a first responder means taking a beating. But do I take that beating? No, I don't. Ugh. Because I train with First in Wellness. Their fitness program prepares me to handle anything. How's that work, you ask? I'll tell you how. It's all this guy over here. That's Mike. He's badass in ways I can't even describe. He built this program for first responders just like us. We all have a beating coming. Are you ready to fight back? I have plastic arms.
Okay, so for those of us that do not have plastic arms, Danielle, just a shout out to your husband who created these.
I'll let him know.
Yeah, absolutely key. And Mike's going to join us next week. Again, these are key building blocks, Danielle, that you left us with. Welcome back, everybody, to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by OBBM. We've got just a few minutes left. These pearls that Danielle started with the nutrition, they definitely impact, Simon, what you do on the couch and how you work with folks. When you work together, Danielle, I'm a first responder. I find your website. I want to start, but I'm looking at what Simon does, and I was like, well, maybe I need some help in that direction as well. How do you guys integrate that?
Well,
I think. You go, Danielle, and then I'll jump in at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, a good starting point at our website is if you go up on the top and just click on resources, there's a whole bunch of free resources there. We have some free programs. We have a whole bunch of ebooks. And I'll let Simon speak to connecting. When we do our 90-day program, our department program, we offer one-on-one coaching with that. For individuals, there is an individual 90-day resilience program that they can pay for, and they can just do it online. And within that, there are options where they can opt in for one-on-one coaching.
I think, Sam, I think that the first part of the answer to that question is that Danielle and I see these things as intimately connected to each other. So we don't approach this from a perspective of we've got all these kind of siloed experts who kind of sit in their own domain and focus just on that thing. We understand the interconnectedness between all of these things. The second part of that is that the idea of coaching, unlike a lot of health and wellbeing programs, the idea of coaching is natively built into First in Wellness. So it's designed from the ground up with that in mind. The coaching element's not we don't see it as a bolt-on or as something that you can do it or not.
Right.
We see the coaching as really, really important because that's what supports people to connect with what really matters to them, and then to act in accordance with that. And at the end of the day, that's what we all do. We all of us, regardless of whether we're first responders or regular people in the street or office workers or whatever, we all act in accord with what matters to us. And being able to discern, to get the difference between what might matter to me right now in this moment and what matters to me in the long term is one of the things that we work with. And so it's certainly true that nutrition supports brain health and so on. There are also things that we can do, from a psychological perspective that are standalone and make a difference to what we do. And they're kind of psychological clinical tools, if you like. And I'm happy to share. There's two I think that are really valuable, Sam, that I'm happy to share with you right now.
Sure. Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left. So yes.
Okay. So one is the idea of spending time thinking about what you want your life to look like 5 or 10 years from now, and not just I'd like to win the lottery, or I'd like to own a boat and a holiday house, but really concretely thinking what's the life I want, what do I want to be doing 10 years from now, and investing time in thinking about that. The second exercise is a lot of fun, and that is think about some sort of challenge or difficulty you're facing in your life right now. Sam, I'm going to get you to do this right now. Just you don't have to tell us what it is. Just bring it to mind. Now I want you to reach out with your left hand, pick up the first object that your hand rests on. Hold it up for us.
Phone. Yep.
Phone. Okay. So your job now is to identify 5 ways in which that object that you've just picked up can provide you some insight into the situation that you're thinking about. So call the situation to mind, pick a random object, a pen, pair of glasses, your earbuds holder, whatever it might be, and then think creatively. And that process of creative thinking allows us to think divergently. It allows us to indulge our creative brains, which is a breath of fresh air when all we do all day is problem solve.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was fantastic. I'm already got my brain working on how to utilize this. Hey guys, right here, firstinwellness.com. I think I'll utilize this to check out more of what you guys do. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the podcast tonight. And as a special treat, folks, they're coming back next week. We have Mike with us, right, Danielle?
Oh yeah.
So, okay. So that last promo for you guys swinging we'll find out what that was about.
Yeah, don't miss that.
We'll leave people in suspense, but this has been a phenomenal information shared. Again, guys, you are one body. You are whole. Let's not separate our heads from our bodies and try to do things separately. We need to come at it together. So again, thank you so much. And we will be seeing you next week again. So until then, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, well, thank you to Danielle and Simon again from First in Wellness. You guys can go. Oh, Danielle's back.
I'm still on here. I'm like,
we will. There you go. I got to hit the right buttons. We will have them back again. The information that Danielle and Simon shared, it's super valuable. And like I started this podcast saying, there are so many resources out there. you got to do the hard stuff. And the hard stuff is diving in, accepting that there is something going on that you want to solve. Like Simon said, there's a problem. There's something that you want to take on. Now be creative with it. Go out and do it. And it's not sitting and ruminating in your head. Let others that have been through the tough stuff, let them help you on that journey. And with that being said, post-traumatic stress is a real thing. We've got a lot of it cumulatively in the first responder community this Thursday night. If you have not gotten your tickets for PTSD 911 premiering right here in Texas in Irving Arts Center, well, you might be out of luck. There might be a few tickets that you can still score by visiting PTSD911movie.com. Grab any remaining tickets. Again, this Thursday night in Irving at the Irving Arts Center. You want to do that and continue your knowledge, continue building your wellness and resiliency on Friday, November 11th. Yes, we picked Veterans Day for a reason. We are putting on a wellness and resiliency workshop at Garland Police Department. Go to badgeofhonor.com to register, and spaces are filling up. So you definitely want to grab your space there. Again, it is all about building your resiliency and wellness toolbox. And today we talked all about turning your stress into strength. We're going to continue that conversation next week as well. Again, huge shout out to Simon and Danielle for joining us. And until next week, everybody, John will be back. We wish you all the best. Be healthy, be well. Check out firstinwellness.com and get on your wellness journey right now. Take care, everybody. Good night.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.